I'll wait for one more minute. If you have any quick questions, we can discuss before we actually start. I see a couple of more people joining today first session. So some people will be just joining and make sure that like
Hi,
any.
Bhaskar.
I
This
will,
is Venkat.
yeah, I will get.
Yeah, Bhaskar. So I have OIC in my current project. I have Fusion and as well as OIC, and I just started building the integrations as well. And so, I mean, I got some Udemy videos and started working, and somehow they're working, but they're not complete. So in that aspect, so I would need advice or like sessions on that. So that's the main for my focus, so I just wanted to give my
Okay,
expectations.
sure. Most probably you should be able to, in fact, understand how to take those things forward. It may take some time, like maybe couple of weeks. So while you start attending these sessions, you're going to get very strong foundation on the basics, and also we'll be doing many concepts. In fact, first 3 weeks is you're going to get most of the top concepts of integration cloud. But
Mhm.
yes, in the meantime, if you have any quick questions, you can ask me, no problem. Like that's fine. We'll try to address that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I think we'll start in a moment. Like one more minute, I'll wait. We are not going to wait like this when we start the real.
Yeah, Bhaskar Sumukh here.
Yeah, hi Sumukh.
Good morning. I have one question. So, Sahana told this course is of around 45-hour duration. So, how long do you think it is going to take us to complete this? How many months or weeks?
It will take actually around 40 hours of sessions, mostly 38 to 40 hours of sessions. That means it may take 6 to 7 weeks with this current schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Bhaskar Deepak here.
Hi Deepak.
Yeah, good morning. I could not got time to go through the demonstration.
Uh-huh.
So if that will affect
No, it
this
will not
session.
affect. You can in fact go through even after today's session, not a problem. So that will give in fact some very good understanding
Okay.
about like what is integration cloud or some other related technologies, why integration cloud, like that. Okay, what is a web service means. So you'll get some idea about those things, but it's not mandatory that you're gone through that for attending today's session.
Okay, thanks.
So you can, but when you get time, you just try to go through that.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Anybody
Hey,
else?
Bhaskar,
Yeah, hi.
this is Ali. Just question regarding the class schedule.
Uh-huh.
Like, is it like, do you want to start at 8:15 to 10:15? Like, that will be a little bit late. So, there is any flexibility of the class timing, or it's a fixed?
As of now, this is what we communicated to all these people.
Okay.
Early means we can try maybe 8 o'clock if that works for everyone. Instead of 8:50. Like you are attending from US early or
Yes, Bhaskar.
which time?
Yeah, here like 10:15 is almost 12, close to 12 o'clock over here.
Oh, you're in like EST or what?
EST, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, EST is a little bit problematic.
Yeah, even I am in EST time zone, Bhaskar.
Yeah, I think if you start at 7:30, at least we will be done by 11. That will be again, it's up to you, but just it's a suggestion.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Actually, that will be too early for us. So we are from IST time. So
okay.
Not only IST actually, I have like Yasin and other guys joining from Dubai, I think. So it's too early for them. So what we can do is instead of 2 hours, we can try to reduce that. And after 1 week, I'll be free other days also. Instead of 3 days, we can try to make 4 days. So that so then I can take like 1.5 hour on Friday and Saturday. And then another 1.5 hour other 2 days. Something like that we can reschedule.
Yeah, that will work, Bhaskar. That's fine.
Okay. So we'll work on that after 1 week. So for this week, anyway, Wednesday, the next session is on Wednesday after today's session. So that day I'll take only 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes like that. So by next Friday, I will let you know. Next Friday, we'll come back and see what to do exactly. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Bhaskar.
No problem. Okay, I think we are good to start now. Thanks everybody for joining. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Don't think too much about what others are going to think or whether it's a very simple question or complex question. So you can ask any question. If it's a related question, I will try to answer. If I don't have answer, I will tell this is not related or I will come back to you. But nothing to worry about whether to ask. You can ask any kind of question, what is going in in your mind, because this is a new technology you are going to learn now. Most of the people are coming from database background, or you don't have any experience at all. For example, I have like no Beamse and I know Sridevi, did she join? Yeah. So those two, like you two also like no, don't hesitate to ask the questions. Okay. You can also ping me after the session if you think you are not able to ask the question, or you send an email, anybody. So getting the clarity on your questions is very important. Sometimes when you ask the questions, I may be asking the question back. It doesn't mean you're asking a wrong question. I try to generally get answers from you guys when you're asking questions so that you are thinking based on what knowledge you already acquired in the training. That is only, that's what I usually do it. So it's very important that you are attending the session with full attention, 100% attention, first thing. Second thing is, okay, let me mute everyone. Just mute everyone. So first thing is attending the session with full 100% attention. Every sentence what I am saying, you try to get it. If it's not clear, you can ask the question. Second thing is, you're going to practice whatever I'm going to ask you to practice. Every session, usually you will be having 1 or 2 demonstrations what I'm doing, and you're learning like some new concepts. You have to go back and spend some time revisiting what we did in the session, and also work on the practices. What I'll be creating a Excel sheet with the practices of today session. You are going to work on this practice. I may be showing one way of doing. Sometimes I'll also ask you to work on, as an assignment for one more like a different approach. So you have to spend time. If you are really, if you really want to become expert of integration cloud within next 6 to 7 weeks, this time, if you want to really become expert and get hands-on, then you have to work on the practices. Just by attending the sessions, you're going to get the concepts for sure, no doubt about that. Even if you're not practicing, you'll get the concepts 100%. But that is not going to make you expert in the technology. If you want to go back and, for example, either you want to work on the integrations hands-on, or even if you want to guide somebody as a team leader, etc. In all those scenarios, you have to spend some time on the practices. So please make your mind like you take out some time other than the attending sessions also. And you will be having access to the recordings. So if anyway, on the same day, I'll be uploading to the drive, and you will be having the access to the session. You can go back and visit any part of the recording if you have still doubt, etc. But make sure that you're working the practices. So I've seen some people, in my previous experience, very excited for first week. They'll work the practices, and then they have other priorities in the work, and sometimes they lose the track. So, but don't do that. It just 4 to 5 weeks or 6 weeks. Believe me, this learning is going to be useful throughout your career. It's like you learn database if you're coming from EBS or Oracle background, and you worked for like 10 years maybe in that technology. So like that, you are learning another technology stack now, integration cloud. You'll also get some idea about what is cloud means and what is VBCS or SOA. So you are getting another side of the technologies which we never worked on probably. So spend some time, and this is going to be useful for not just now immediately, but throughout your career. Okay. So with that, I will go ahead and share my screen.
Bhaskar, just one question while you're sharing. Sumukh here.
Yes.
So many of us are using our company laptop. So do you think while doing practice, will that cause an issue? Means whether we will be able to do our practice session if there needs something to be installed that may.
Coming to the installation, for general practice, you don't need to install anything. You are going to do everything on the browser itself because this is coming from the cloud. And you may have to install Oracle database. If you already have, you can use that one. That's the only thing you will be needing, but that is not like mandatory. Oracle database will be using for one of the integrations where you may have to do some on-premise integrations. So when you're going to work on those concepts, we'll be needing some 2 or 3 examples we'll be doing with the database integrations. Otherwise, everything is on the cloud. I'm going to give you FTP server, which is on the cloud. You can access it. Fusion applications on the cloud, you can access from anywhere. And Oracle integration cloud on the cloud, so you can access from anywhere. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any such questions? Yeah, I can take the questions at the end also, no problem. Fine. I'm sharing the screen now. Let me share. I'm just sharing my notepad. I hope you are able to see the screen. If you are having any problem, just let me know. Can you hear me okay? Because my headphones are not working, but I think it should be still okay. I'm just using my laptop. Right. So we are here for Oracle Integration Cloud along with Fusion Technical. That's what we're going to focus on the training. So I will quickly show the course curriculum once again if you guys didn't get a chance to go through the demo. So if you go to IQStream site, okay, integration. I'll go here. Trying to open the direct link. Integration cloud. I'll just spend a few minutes understanding on the course curriculum. So first, I'm organizing this whole course into curriculum into 4 sections. You can see here, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Part 1, we are going to focus completely on the integration cloud. Here we're going to start with the basics of integrations, also understanding about like web services, what is REST web service, XML, XSD, SOAP web services, like those fundamentals. We'll also touch base somewhere like what is the difference between integration, infrastructure as a service, PaaS, SaaS, those concepts. So this is very important if you're not coming from the SOA or integration background. So we need to get some idea about those concepts first. But these concepts are not related to just integration. These concepts are agentic concepts, what we'll be needing to understand. You need to know before you work on the integration. So we are going to do that one. After that, everything is related to integration cloud, like how to work with adapters, different kind of adapters in the integration cloud, creating connections using those adapters and working on different integration patterns. We're going to learn this whole concept with the help of one project work. The project work I explained in detail in the demo session. So you can go back and see that what kind of project we are going to work on in case if you didn't do that. So this part 1 is learning the integration cloud. So the integration cloud itself is not related to any specific applications. Like this is not related to only Fusion applications or any integrations with only something else. Integration cloud is a platform which can be used for any integrations. Integrations with any applications. So earlier, before cloud, Oracle was having technology called Oracle SOA, which is still there, which is still very much in the market. It's very popular in on-premises. And what Oracle did, Oracle created a equivalent technology on the cloud. The concepts and what you can achieve using integration cloud also similar to Oracle SOA, but it is much easier to use compared to Oracle. So in terms of infrastructure, environment, what you need to install, etc., you don't need all that overhead. You don't have the overhead if you're using Integration Cloud. So the point what I'm making, Integration Cloud is not specific to any like applications, Fusion or like that. You may be using Integration Cloud very commonly when you're doing the Fusion application integrations, but it is not limited for the Fusion applications. Okay, so you're learning a new technology which can be used for any integrations. That's what we are focusing on the first part of the training. We are not talking too much about either Fusion applications or any of those applications here. The second part, we are spending some time understanding on the Fusion technical aspects. Again, here, this is completely different from the integrations. Somebody can only learn Fusion technical, and they can even work in the Fusion applications technical side. Without integrations also, you'll have some kind of tasks where you need Fusion technical knowledge. Like here, we are going to focus more on understanding about the data loading concepts in the Fusion applications, reporting concepts, understanding about what is the schedulers, enterprise scheduler, where you can schedule the jobs, process, etc., and file import, export, like that. We're going to spend those aspects rather the integrations. Why we are doing this one? Because most of you guys, I believe you'll be working the Fusion technical side after this training, or you're already working. So to get those concepts, and then what we do, whatever we learned in the part 1 and part 2, we are going to put together and work on some live integrations with the Fusion applications. So by this time, you already know the whole Integration Cloud concepts. You will be able to develop any complex integrations because we're already working on some project, which is completely we are developing from scratch to some advanced cases. So here we put together and work on some live integrations with the Fusion applications. For example, the file-based data input, what you learned here, where you want to do some bulk data import into Fusion applications using some Excel file, etc. There are some steps involved in that, like uploading file to UCM, then you have to schedule some process, wait until the process is completed, download the log files, etc. So manually we are going to learn here in the part 2. Then we are also going to automate the same thing. That's what we're telling here. For example, FBDA automation. What is this one? You are automating that whole task. So here, with this integration, which you're developing the Integration Cloud, can poll for some incoming files, the FBDA data files on FTP or some file system. And this can immediately read the data from that file, upload the file to UCM, which is the Fusion applications, schedule the process, wait until the process is completed, download the log files, everything we're going to do the integration, like there without any manual intervention, it is going to automate that tasks. Like I'm just giving one example. Like that, we're also going to work with some, also the reporting things, like downloading the reporting with the help of integration, manipulating the data, what we're getting as a response, and so on. Some also will be using some additional SOAP web services, adapters, integration, ERP cloud adapter, then REST APIs. So with all different things, like for when it goes to Fusion applications, integrations, you can do the integrations using 3 interfaces. One is with the help of SOAP web services or REST web services. These are services or interfaces which are available or exposed by Fusion applications on the cloud. In addition to that, you'll be having the cloud adapters like ERP cloud adapter, Oracle ERP cloud adapter. With the help of these 3 interfaces, we can develop the integrations with the Fusion applications. So we are doing all those different aspects with a proper live use case to learn to do the integration of the Fusion applications, this part. So this is where you are you're having the exposure to Integration Cloud and also the Fusion applications. And then the part 4 is we are going to learn some related technologies, not in depth, to get some overview with a couple of examples, but you'll understand what is the technology and the different components available in that technology. High level, your concepts, what you have to do to develop the applications using those or solutions using those technologies, but you will not get too much of hands-on in this. Our complete focus is on integrations, and we are going to spend a lot of time on that one, in-depth learning. So when it comes here, you will be learning like certain extent. Instead of Oracle ADF, I may include Oracle ADF also, but presently I'm moving more towards Oracle Apex. So I'll be covering Oracle Apex as well in this, like when we go to that overview sessions of those technologies, PCS, VBCS, SOA. SOA is very important because this is a related technology. You should also know the difference between Oracle SOA and Integration Cloud. And when you take a decision in your company tomorrow, whether you need to work with Oracle SOA, or I mean, when you say work, if you have to develop a solution, sometimes you may have both the options, Oracle SOA and Integration Cloud. Which one you have to use? So for that, at least you should know the similarities and differences between Oracle SOA, why we're having two different similar technologies. So those things and all, you will get complete picture, and you'll also do in fact 1 or 2 good examples there. So you will get complete picture about those. I mean, to take a decision between SOA versus Integration Cloud with that. Right. So that is what we are going to do in the next few weeks in this training. And I will be giving access after mostly today's session, whoever registered already, they're going to get the Integration Cloud access, OIC access, and also the FTP adapter. These 2 things I'll be sharing today. I'll also give the access for recordings. And after a couple of weeks, we'll also get the access to Fusion applications. That is the cloud apps. That there you'll be having complete access. In fact, if anybody already working in the Fusion application, they want to even try out a little more functional side, you will be having access. You can, I mean, you're free to do more practices on that if in case if you want. All right. That's about the course outline. Any questions on that? I will then jump into the actual learning after this.
Bhaskar, it was said that you would cover the technical side of Fusion applications.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that is covered here, right?
That is a part 2. This one is Fusion technical side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, the Fusion technical, the focus is more on the integrations. Okay, that should be very clear here. We'll be doing the Fusion technical aspects, learning the file-based data import, reporting, OTBI, OBI, understanding about UCM, ESS. But again, this is not like too depth what we do in the integrations. You'll be doing FBDI, one example, for example, we are going to do manually, we're going to automate also. OTBI, we'll be creating at least 2 reports, and BI report, we are going to at least get 2 reports. And when you create the reports, after that, we're going to automate to call those reports in integration, manipulate with the data. So our focus is more towards that one. So this is very good start to work with the Fusion technical, but if you want to become really more expertise in that, you may have to spend a little more time learning like further on that one, either yourself or like whatever. I mean, whatever the resource you have. Okay. Oracle certificate. Yeah. Yeah, Kamran. So for Oracle certification, I got a question on the chat. You can also do the Oracle certification for 1Z0 1042-20. This is a integration specialist from Oracle certification. So most of the topics what you need for that certification, we would be covering, we'd be learning by end of the course. And you can go through that certification course, I mean the exam topics from Oracle site. And you have to spend some additional, I think maybe 2 weeks of dedicated preparation for the certification, then you should be able to clear that. So many people actually do that certification even while doing the training or after the training, they'll be able to clear the certification. Okay. If you need any help on that, I mean, you can definitely reach out to me, or I can also connect with you with someone who recently cleared the certification so that they can give some ideas on how to prepare and what was the approach they followed, etc. Okay. So then I got the question, how important is to become techno-functional in Fusion applications, or only technical can survive? It depends on what is your background in the Fusion applications. So like any application, so we have, I just want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm saying. First, there is only functional side, only technical side, or techno-functional. So now the question is, can I only survive as a technical in Fusion applications, or do I need to be techno-functional? If you're coming from Oracle apps background, any Oracle apps and e-business suite background, I would suggest probably techno-functional might be better, but it depends again personally how you want to pursue also. Some people might be very, very strong in technical. They don't want to go towards functional. You are very good. If you, in that case, you have to be really strong in the integration cloud. You have to become very, very strong in integration cloud. So if you know the Fusion technical in depth, you may have to spend a little more time than what you're learning in this training also. You have to further explore. And then integration, we are doing everything. Then you have to practice everything what we are covering, and also explore further. I mean, explore further means there is no limit, right? When you are learning something, you can go back and play with that. So you become real strong in these part 1 and part 1, part 3. Then you can also survive only as a technical also. That's possible. But if you already have some functional experience, you think you may be good in financials or supply chain management or HCM like that, there is nothing wrong spending some effort on learning and exploring those side also. Okay. I hope that answers your question. All right. But one thing I would still say that if you're coming from Oracle Apps and e-business suite background, even with this training, don't position yourself only as an integration specialist. Only integration specialist is not, I would not suggest. You have to still position yourself as a Fusion technical expert. So it is like Fusion technical with integration. That's how you have to position yourself, because your Fusion technical is always very much required when you are working the Fusion side. Okay. And all your experience of Oracle applications or whatever the applications you worked on, you should be able to leverage that knowledge. When I say knowledge, only not only technical knowledge, right? So when you're working with, when you have to work on a solution, all that additional knowledge also going to be very useful, like how you interact with your clients, and then all exercise what you do for getting the solution, etc. all comes in handy, right? So that all you have to leverage. And also if you're going to interview, you have to take advantage of your existing experience. Don't think I'm new for Fusion applications. I don't know how. No, all your existing experience will come in handy. Don't worry about that. But you have to, of course, become experts in the new technologies. So together you have to position yourself. Okay. Then I got some reports, interfaces, conversion extensions using, what is this one? Sorry.
Hi sir, Sudham here. Actually, in R2L we are using OAF and developer forms actually. So in Fusion we have options for PVS, PVCS, ADF, and Apex. Or any other options we have, or only these three?
In Fusion, yes, you're having these things only: VBCS, PCS, ADF, or Apex. Mostly those will be the technologies we'll be working with. Okay.
Thank you.
And then if anybody if others, like if you're not from Oracle Apps background, don't worry too much, because this discussion all we're talking is more in terms of Fusion applications and Oracle applications. But the integration cloud, what you're learning is again not limited to that. If somebody is not going to work in the Fusion applications, if you're coming from a different background altogether, don't worry too much about that. You are still in a good, on a good path, and what you're going to learn is, it's going to be still generic. Okay. All right. Okay. So any other quick questions?
Yeah, Bhaskar Sumukh here. So what is the replacement of Oracle workflow in Fusion?
Fusion is already having a workflow which is implemented using Oracle BPM.
So also Oracle workflow, the technology which we are using currently in R12, for that we use BPL, right?
Yeah, but that is BPM. It's not, it doesn't mean you have to learn Oracle BPM to use in Fusion applications. If you're going to work with the workflows in the Fusion applications already having the workflows which you can customize, etc. Based on, like, let's say I go to HCM and I have already some approval process there. You can customize that. For that, you don't need to work with BPM. You'll be working with BPM or PCS, where you are going to develop a custom application completely outside the Fusion applications. And on the custom application, you need some workflow. Then you need the PCS or BPM. You have to learn the technology. Till that time, you don't need to become expert of the technology to work in the Fusion applications. Okay.
No, my question was that Oracle workflow as a tool. So workflow as a tool we use in R12, right? If I have to look at
What is the purpose of workflow tool? To create the approval workflows only, right?
Right. One of that is, of course, the approvals. Yeah.
Yeah. So that you are going to in the Fusion applications. Okay, let me spend some more time on that. I think getting clarity is important. Fusion applications is on the cloud, first of all, and you don't have direct access to the database. So what you can only do is you can work with Fusion applications as a functional point of view. You can access. That means you can do the implementation and configurations, etc. You can do functional point of view, or technical side. What you can do, you can extend the integrations using either SOAP or REST or adapters. Now, when you're working this side, workflow comes into picture. So this here itself, you have an interface to create the workflows or whatever, like if you want to customize the workflows, you will be able to do that in the functional side itself. Technical side, then you are going to work with the PCS to develop new workflow outside Fusion application. This is not going to be within Fusion application. What is happening is, in fact, this might be confusing until you actually learn and use. You'll get more clarity, in fact, next few weeks. But the technologies what you're learning are more of generic technologies in case of Fusion applications or on the cloud. In the Oracle apps, what you used to do, only generic technology is a database there. Like database concept, SQL, PLSQL, etc. That is a generic technology. But anything else what you used to do, for example, OAF, right? Sorry. Or workflow we are talking about. All these are very, very specific to Oracle apps. You cannot use those tools to develop any other applications outside the Oracle applications. You are within the Oracle application framework and developing that. But it doesn't work in that way in Fusion applications. In the Fusion applications, either you do functional side, which is completely within the Fusion applications, anything coming technical, where you want to extend your applications by developing some new UI or new logic, etc., doesn't directly come into Fusion application. That will be outside the Fusion applications always. That's where you may be needing to learn VBCS or Apex or ADF, etc., which is not specific to Fusion applications. These are the technologies which are available on the cloud or on premises, by which you can develop any custom application. Somebody who is not working with Fusion applications can also use VBCS, Apex, ADF, PCS to develop their solutions. Understand? So they're not specific to Fusion applications. So I don't know if I answered your question directly, but I hope you understand what you can relate with your question now, whatever I explained.
Thanks.
No problem. Okay. Right. Anything else? Any clarity you want? But I mean, many things will get clarity also over a period of time, because I'll be mentioning these things based on the context. Why we are doing this? What is Infusion applications? All that will come into picture. I mean, I may not be mentioning those things in the course curriculum directly, but we'll be talking many other things which are relevant to this whole suite of technologies. Okay. All right. Just one moment, please. So what we'll do now, let us develop one.
Hi Bhaskar, Deepak here.
Yeah,
Just before we begin, can you just increase the font a bit?
yeah. 1 second. I think I can do this by. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So first we'll do, let us develop or let us build one integration using Integration Cloud or Oracle Integration Cloud. So what integration we want to develop? Why I'm doing this one? I want to start with an integration so that you'll be having lots of doubts. Like you may not be understanding everything what I'm doing in this integration, because it will take some time. Two sessions it will take, and you have to practice also. But the moment I introduce this integration, you will get exposure to what are the different things you have to work on to develop an integration. And very high level get some concept also, why integration is required. So then you will start thinking about that, why we are doing this one, why we are doing that one, so that you will also come up with more questions. And then after this, when I'm going to teach some concepts, for example, WSDL, XML, XSD, JSON, then you'll be able to relate with what we did in the integration. So that's what I want to do. So I'll spend like 15-20 minutes to create this integration. Then after that, I'm going to start with XML, XSD, and WSDL. Hopefully we should be able to do these two things today. In the next session, I'll also spend some time understanding about IaaS versus PaaS versus SaaS. If we get time, we'll do today only that also. So for building one integration, what integration I want to build? I want to build an integration for greetings, like hello world, most of the times we do, right? So what is that integration? This integration will take some input. It will take an input called name. And then the response, what we're going to get is hello. What are the name you're giving as input? That will come here. Let's see, if I say Bhaskar, hello Bhaskar. Greetings from OIC. That's what I want to give as an output. Now, one more thing. Try to relate with whatever you know. When you are working the integration cloud, let's say you're coming from database background, you know PLSQL. If you're coming from Java background, even if you're not worked, if written any program, one program, two programs using C, C++, Java, or whichever the technology used. In any technology, what we do, we create like functions, or like we call methods in case of Java. We create a function or method to implement some business logic. I give some input to that function. It is going to implement some business logic. Let's say I'm creating a function for add, which will take like int A, int B, like that. And then it will return me the sum of the A and B values, what I am passing. So whatever you're writing your programming, in any programming, this is what you do. You develop some functions. The function will take some input. You're implementing some business logic in that. That business logic is going to make use of this input and gives some output, right? That is not changing in the integration cloud. In the integration cloud also, you are still going to do same thing. When I say integration cloud or web services, the web services also what we do, we are developing the operations. In case of web services, we call it operations. We don't call functional method. So in an operation also, which will take some input, it is going to work on that input using some business logic and is going to return some response. Okay, that is not changing. The concept doesn't change. The a way of doing is different in the web services. Why I'm talking web services when I'm talking integration? The web service is a building block. This is a building block for any integrations. Whether you are using SOA or integration cloud, or maybe you're using some other like technologies called Dell Boomi, which is there in the market, or MuleSoft. All these are integration platforms. In any platform, whenever you are working with some integrations means what? You are working with more than one applications. Application 1, application 2, you want to interact. You want to take maybe some data from application 1 and send it to application 2, like that. That's where we are using terminology called integration. Okay, the terminology is fine, but when you are developing the integration, what you are doing, you are still going to develop some business logic only. Like earlier, you may be calling some function or procedure of PLSQL, if you develop PLSQL function. If you're writing a Java method, you're going to call another Java method, maybe, correct? In case of integrations, what we do, we primarily will be working with the web services. It means to develop an integration, I may be calling X operation of some web service coming from application 1. Okay. And then I may be calling another operation of another web service coming from application 2, like that. So instead of simple functions, we are going to work with the web services. Why web service? Web service is independent of, I mean, this and all I clearly explained in the demo session. If you can go through that one, you'll get some more idea on what is that independent. So independent of technologies, platform, whatever you call, languages, etc. That means if I write a operation, web service operation, I may be developing that operation with the help of X technology. The same operation I can call from Y technology. It means if my web service was developed using Java technology, but you can access that web service operation even using C# program, or like some other Java program, any program you can call that. That's why the web service is the primary building block in case of integrations. So now when I'm developing a integration using integration cloud, that automatically becomes a web service. What are the integration I'm developing becomes a web service. Either it becomes a SOAP web service or REST web service. Most of the times. There are some exceptions. We'll talk about that later on. That's called scheduled integrations also. Now, what is SOAP? What is REST? We're going to get that complete picture within today or next session, etc. Don't worry about that. The whole idea of introducing this is you're going to get the doubts. Okay. So if you're getting doubts, that means you're understanding. So we are going to develop an integration called greetings here, which takes input name and going to give me output called hello name greetings from OIC. Now, why will I develop integration for this one? Not really required, right? You can also get this using any other simple program like Java program, PLSQL function also you can write. But I'm developing a integration because of one reason. That becomes actually a web service. And then anybody can access this greetings operation from any technology. If I'm developing a PLSQL operation, what will happen? You're forcing the client also to be PLSQL most of the times. If I'm developing a Java method, only Java can access that method, another Java program. But if I'm developing a web service, that web service can be accessed by anybody as long as they have access to your web service, right? So that can be one reason why I'm using integration cloud for developing this solution. Why? One reason. So one reason is becoming a web service, to make a web service. And why web service? Web service is having so many advantages. Okay. Now, and also what I do, I already have another web service called Hello World. I already have a web service called Hello World. Sorry. So this Hello World web service takes input called name, anything, basically name, and it gives me an output called hello name. So this one is already there. This is not a web service I'm developing. This is an existing web service. Existing web service, and it is a SOAP web service. Now, so what we'll try to do whenever you're developing any solution, you will try to reuse the existing functionality. If it makes sense, if it's going to add some, if it's going to reduce the effort, right? Let's say I'm developing, for example, order processing. And in order processing, I need the credit card validation. So you will not do the credit card validation like from scratch. You will see the credit card validation already, there's any function available as a web service or something like that. You will call that, right? You will try to use the existing functionality. If you write everything from scratch, then it is going to be too much of effort. So that's where there might be some cases where you'll be, you will like to use the existing web service and the solutions. So here, for developing these greetings, I would like to use the existing hello world because it's already getting me some functionality called hello name. So this portion of my output can be taken from the hello world web service. And then I'm going to append the additional greetings from OIC. Do I need to really do that? It's up to you. No, you think like, no, I don't want to call the existing web service. I will only prepare the whole, you can do that. But I'm going to use web service because I just want to show how you can use an existing web service in the integration. So you're going to get a little more picture about that one. And then we'll also give some introduction, like introducing what is WSDL there. And then you will think what is WSDL. So you'll come back and learn that like in the next part. Right. So with that, let me create the integration now. For creating integrations, one second. So I logged into Integration Cloud. I'm going to give you this URL and also username and password. So when you log in, I'm getting some chat. Any other technology can use OIC, like any app development in Microsoft technologies rather than VBS Apex. Yes, any other technology also can use your OIC interface, what we're developing. Okay. Microsoft application also can call the integration what we're developing, or you can also call the Microsoft based applications from the integrations. All those things are possible. So for developing integrations, we start with connections. So this is the Integration Cloud homepage. From here, you have access for the integrations, Process Cloud Service, also Visual Builder. We are going to focus more on this one. We'll also have some introduction about Process and Visual Builder later on. That's the part 4 of the training. So go to integrations from here. In the integrations, we're having, like you see, these navigations, integrations, connections, lookups, package, agents, adapters. So we are going to do all these things. So in the integrations, this is the integration already developed by, like as part of this training, or like there are some integrations available. And we are going to start with creating connections. So first thing what we do is creating connection whenever you want to develop integrations. Why do we need connections? We need a connection to access any existing service which is coming from any other application mostly. So if you want to call any existing service or application interface, then you need to create a connection for that. How do you create connection? You're going to create connection using an adapter. Using an adapter. Where do we have the adapters? Adapters are already available in the Integration Cloud. You can see the adapters. These are the adapters. Why adapters? Adapters are going to be like they are acting like interfaces for other applications or technologies. Only two things you will have in the industry, right? Either you are going to communicate with the technology, like for example, database is a technology, file system is a technology, or you may want to communicate with an existing application. Salesforce is an application. Fusion applications on the cloud is an application. SAP is an application. Workday is an application, like that. So these adapters are interfaces to access those technologies or applications. Now you want to access a specific technology or application. You are going to use the adapter for that. Using adapter, you're going to get a connection, and then you are going to use the connection in the integration. Understood? Adapter are developed by whom? Oracle itself developed these adapters and made it available in the integration cloud platform. So they know how to communicate. Every adapter knows how to communicate with corresponding application on the one side. And the other side is exposing as a web service, mostly like the interface, which can be invoked in the integrations using through connections. All right. Now, when I go to connections, what connections I need? For my integration, what I'm developing here, I'll be needing one connection for this one, that is to access Hello World Web Service. The Hello World Web Service already available, so I need one connection. And what kind of connection I'll be needing? It's a web service, which is SOAP web service. So I'll be needing one connection. It's also called SOAP based on the SOAP adapter connection for accessing Hello World service. And it's also called, there are two types of connections. One is called the invoke, and one more thing is called trigger. We'll also create one more connection called REST based connection, REST adapter connection. We'll be creating as a trigger connection. Why this one is required? This one we are going to do. This connection is actually we are defining the interface for our integration, what we are developing. So I'm developing greetings integration. I already mentioned that the integration becomes a web service. Now what web service? I'm going to expose this integration as a REST web service. Now for that one, I need to create one connection. So whatever you are exposing, only one interface you can expose, that becomes a trigger based connection. I mean trigger type connection. So we're going to create two connections now. One is SOAP adapter based and one is REST adapter based. This is for accessing the Hello World, and this is for exposing your interface definition. All right. So first SOAP connection I'll create. Okay, I'm getting a chat. So can you explain difference between, you'll get clarity on that. Right. I'll explain again. So for now, just think this much only. Invoke means you are invoking something. Trigger means you are defining interface for exposing your integration. Okay, I'll get more information than that. I'll provide, in the next session or in the part of our explanation. Now, let me create one connection. When you click on create, there are adapters available. So I will search for SOAP, select SOAP adapter, select. Then the connection name. So I would be creating the connection name as, let's say BK. I would connection this one as a Hello World. Invoke. Give some name like that. BK Hello World connection. Then this is going to be invoke. Create. When you're creating connection for SOAP based adapter, why SOAP based? SOAP is also a technology. Web service also considered as a technology. So they generalized this whole thing in the integration cloud. So if you are going to access a SOAP based web service, you are going to create a connection of SOAP adapter type like that. One second. Right. Now for creating connection for SOAP based web service, you need a WSDL for that. The WSDL we are going to discuss in detail. But what is WSDL? WSDL is a definition of your web service, SOAP web service, which contains the specifications, like what are the web service name, what operation is exposed by that web service, etc. Now, where do you get the WSDL URL? If you want to invoke a web service, the web service provider has to publish the WSDL, and we are going to get from the web service provider. There are two parties. Whenever you are talking about accessing something, Somebody is owning that service. They are the web service providers. And somebody is going to call. In this case, I am the client. I am calling that web service, right? So I will not publish the WSDL. I need to get the WSDL from that person or the owner of the web service. And how they are going to give us, either through a URL or the URL already, like you used it earlier and you downloaded the WSDL into a document. Both the ways you can use. Now what I did, let me now, oh my God, fine, I'll open here. I have some resources which I'll be sharing. This whole folder I'm going to share. In this I have some files. So one folder in that is WSDL. Some of other like we'll be using JSON, SQL, XML, XSD, all that we'll be using in the practices. You should be getting access to this one. The WSDLs, I already have a hello world WSDL. Where is that? Hello world invoke.WSDL. Getting some, where can we search WSDL is available or not? WSDL available or not, we are not really talking about the WSDL or web services on the internet much. When you're doing the integrations, we are mostly talking about a web service coming from Fusion application, a web service coming from Salesforce, or coming from the Workday like that. So those applications will be having some documentation or some interface where you can search for those web services and corresponding WSDLs. This is coming, yes, this is a more generic web service what I'm using, provided by Oracle only, somewhere it's running. Okay. Now, if you want to open this and check, I'll open that also, but I'm not going to explain everything now. This is a WSDL, which is again an XML document, which contains the specification of the web service. Don't worry too much about that. We're going to get clarity on this one. Now, what I will do, coming back to our connection, I'm going to use that WSDL document, upload, click on upload. If you have the URL, you are going to put the URL, otherwise upload and choose file. And where is that available? It's available under my, this resources, files, WSDLs, hello world, invoke.WSDL. Like I'm just using that file, I'm uploading to my integration. Now, when you're accessing a web service, you may also have a security. So if that web service is like protected by some username password, then you have to provide the username password. If you know that there is no security, then you have to say no security policy. So in case of hello world, there is no security. That's why I'm making no security policy. Click on test and then validate and test. So this is 100% means it's configured properly. You are configuring a connection. This configuration will vary based on adapter to adapter. If I'm creating a SOAP based connection, SOAP adapter based connection, this is a configuration. If I'm creating a REST adapter connection, the configuration will be different. I'm creating a connection for accessing the Fusion applications, the configuration will be different, like that. Okay, then save it, then go back. This word use back. Connection got created, one connection. One more connection I need to create, that is a REST-based trigger connection. Username and password will be available in the WSDL. No, the WSDL will not have username password, that you are going to get separately from the service provider account details. Okay. Then I will create one more connection. This connection I'm going to create based on the REST select. I will give this name as a BK REST trigger connection this time. And this is what I'm going to expose. Whatever I want to expose my integration as, that definition will be part of this connection. For creating, I'll answer the question. I'm getting some chat message, how to decide what app. Okay, I'll explain that. Now, so while creating the connection, a trigger connection based on the REST, there is nothing to be configured. It is actually coming as 100%. No problem. Still, you can test if you want and click on save and then go back. Now, how do we decide what adapter to be used? It depends on your requirement. So in this case, my requirement is I want to access to implement my solution greetings integration. I want to access the existing service. Now, Hello World service, you cannot decide whether it is SOAP or REST. Hello World service provider already developed that service as a SOAP. That means you have to create a SOAP based connection. Now you want to access, for example, something from Fusion applications. Like I want to get the list of employees from the Fusion applications, list of customers or list of orders from Fusion applications, or I want to create something from the Fusion applications. Then the Fusion application, you have to see whether it's providing a SOAP service or REST service, or you have some other adapter in the integration cloud. So based on that, you are going to create the connection. Decide the adapter. Now let me go and create the integration. Both the connections are created. I'm going a little bit fast. Purposefully I'm doing. We'll be going a little more slow maybe, or sometimes it may be fast. It depends on what we're going to do at what stage. So today I'm not really trying to provide all the details of how to create integration. I'm just introducing the end-to-end flow so that you will be having some doubts, no problem. You will still get some understanding about what integrations means. And you are going to get more in-depth knowledge about these things when you start practicing and when we do more complex integrations going forward. Okay. The idea is not really get everything in this first integration. I got a message from Kamran saying, do we need to install any security certificates to consume service in OIC? Usually not. Most of the certificates will be already available. Otherwise, you are, yes, if you want, you can also, under libraries, you are going to install that. Okay. Yes, we can talk about that again when it comes to like certificates. If you have any questions around that, we can discuss more on that one. Now, what did I do, by the way? I came to integrations, I clicked on create, and it is giving whether you want to create an integration of what style, app driven, scheduled, file transfer, like that, 6 types there. So I'm going to create app driven. Why and why on what basis you choose, we'll discuss that in detail. But one thing you remember, whenever you want to expose your integration as a REST or SOAP, only 2 things you can do, either REST or SOAP. You can't expose by any other means. If you want to expose either SOAP or REST, if you want to expose, then you have to go for app-driven orchestration. So most of the times we'll be working with app-driven or scheduled orchestration. You will see that. If anybody worked in Oracle SOA, the orchestration is very similar to Beppel. If you know Beppel, orchestration becomes easy. Okay. Now, the integration name you have to create. I'll create the integration name as a BK greetings integration. You also give a package name. We'll give the package name also as a BK. Make sure to create always give a package when you are creating integration. Just keep this in mind. I mean, without package also it will still work. With the package, if you are assigning same package, you apply for all the integrations what we are creating. Same package for now for all the integrations. If I'm using BK, you will see for all the integrations I'm going to use BK only. It is like a package so that I can import, export everything together if I want like that. Create. Now, this is the integration where you can build. So by this time, I think everybody understood that for developing the integrations, you don't need to work with any separate tools like JDeveloper or SQL developer. Nothing is required, correct? You just log into this integration cloud URL on the browser, which is coming from Oracle Cloud, whole thing. And the browser itself is acting an interface for developing everything, right? So that's really the advantage of these cloud technologies. Now here, to develop an integration, app-driven orchestration, that's what we're developing the integration style. We're going to have a trigger, this is a trigger point, and this is an end. So between trigger and end, you're going to start with trigger, and then you're going to work with additional activities between the trigger and end, and then you can reply some value, some response at the end. So start with trigger. Click on plus here. Then you are going to search for the existing connections what you created already. It's also showing the latest connections here. You can see BK REST trigger connection. If you notice, this is the name I've given for my connection, trigger based connection. So I'm going to use that trigger connection here. Then when you're using the connection in the integration, it is going to ask configure for many things. So one thing is it is going to ask for the endpoint name. So I can say greetings. Click next. Then it is a REST configuration basically. Whatever I'm doing in this step is a REST configuration. We're going to discuss in detail about what is a REST, what is get operation, post operation, etc. Next session or a session after that. But I want to use it, no problem. You'll get an understanding already by that time. So whenever you're using a REST service, you are going to provide the resource URI. So here resource URI, I can say / greetings. / is mandatory, and then you are going to give some name. It's like you are giving an operation name. And then it is going to ask whether the get operation, post operation like that. And how to decide, I will explain that later on. So for our requirement for now, it's going to be get operation. Get operation means we are going to have input and also output. Okay. And since I'm going to say get operation input, I want to configure. I also want to configure output. So you are going to mention those two things here. Then click next. Then in the query parameter is going to be our input. I click on plus. I would say G name, greetings name is going to be my input parameter, and then string is going to be my data type. Then click on next. And it is going to ask for the response now, what type of response. You can choose whether you want to have XML type or JSON type, like what type you want. I will be discussing about in detail what is XML schema, JSON, etc. For now, I would say I want a JSON. And click on inline. And here you can create one simple JSON here. I will talk about in detail in JSON, but now I would say this is greetings response. I would say you give some sample value for now, hello. Okay, so in the JSON you are going to have the fields, sequence of fields, and then the values for every field, like property and value like that. But we are just having only one field called greetings response for now, and this is going to be the value which will be replaced by the integration during the actual request processing. So we are going to get a response of this structure. That's what I am trying to say here. Okay, and click next. So for creating, whenever you are dropping a trigger based REST connection, what you are going to configure, you are going to configure what input you are providing, the parameter name, and what output that you are going to provide a structure, either XML structure or JSON structure. Click done. We are going to again get those details in detail. I mean, why we are doing all that stuff. For now, hopefully you're getting some idea about what I'm doing. So now you can see, I can also make it horizontal versus vertical. This, okay? I generally go for horizontal, it will be more convenient. And then you can move like using like this mouse. So I start with greetings, integration, I mean this entry point, and then you're having a response. This is called map activity. So this is a map activity for mapping the response before it goes to the client, I mean, before your integration ends. I'm talking the during request time, during request processing time. Okay. Now what I will do here, first keep saving this one because this is over the internet. So if anything goes like stucks, then you lose everything. So keep saving at every stage. I'm going to now invoke my existing service, Hello World service. How do I invoke that? Click on plus. Then you can search for your connection. My connection is like hello something, right? You can say BK Hello World invoke connection is there. Select that Then that is a SOAP connection. There is also, always there will be something called endpoint. They just give any name here. I would say invoke hello world service or server. That's fine. Hello world, and click next. Then it is going to ask what operation you want to call. Now this hello world service has actually two operations. One is say hello, one is visit timestamp details. This information will be there in the WSDL also. If you want to quickly check that the WSDL will see this in, again, you get more idea on that, but you can see there are two operations somewhere. You will see say hello and visit timestamp details. That's what it is going to show here, because the connection what we created is coming from a SOAP, based on SOAP adapter, right? And we also gave a WSDL there while creating the connection. So it is going to get the operation names from the WSDL. I want to access the say hello. This all depends on requirement. Before that, you'll understand what is say hello, what is the behavior of that operation. So we're not doing much of exercise on that end here, but when you are doing the real integration, you're going to spend some time understanding about that web service, what you're going to invoke, which operation you need to call based on your requirement. For example, the Fusion applications, I want to create a new supplier. Then you need to understand for creating supplier what input I'll be needing. Like that, you'll spend some time in preparation of that. Right. Then click next. And then next, just sorry, and done. Keep saving. And this is what we're invoking the existing service. This is the entry point. Before invoking any existing service, this is like invoke call. You will be having a map activity. Why? You have to send the input for that invoke. So that map, click on that and click on edit. This is a map activity or map interface, what you are going to see now. Just taking some time. What happened? It's a little bit slow. It could be my internet also. Now, on the left, you are having some variables which are created based on what we are developing. On the right, you are having a variable which is representing input for that invoke call. And then you can take any value from the left and assign to any value on the right. So the say hello operation is taking an input called name. I'm getting that as a query parameter from my REST service, which I'm exposing. This is the input for my integration. I take that and map to this name. Like this, you are going to map it. In this map, you can also use some functions, etc. We'll be doing that at some point, and just then validate and close. This map may be more complex mapping based on how complex your object is. Then I will be mapping this one, the response. Save it. This edit. What I want to do in this, I have a response here. Response wrapper. Just takes a couple of seconds to open that. Come on. Yeah. And that is having greetings response, which is having a field. Yeah, just greetings response. Where is this coming from? This is coming from the JSON what I configured during while dropping that connection. Now this has to be built as, I want to expose as like this, right? Hello world, sorry, hello name and greetings from OIC. The hello name is coming from my existing service. That's the reason I'm calling that one. Then I want to append this portion into whatever the response I'm getting. Okay. Yeah, I'll answer that, Ali. I'll come back to that. So, yeah, so going back here, greetings response. Now here, I'm not going to map directly. I have an invoke hello world response. You see this? This is also giving me some response. Now this response I already know. Why? How I know? Because I explored about that web service using a documentation or using some example. I already know that this is going to give me hello name. Now if I map this hello name to this response, then I'm going to get only hello name. Then there is no use of developing this integration probably, right? Why I'm developing? I'm developing because I'm enhancing the existing service. Hello name is not sufficient for me. I want hello name greetings from OIC. So what I will do, I go to greetings response, right click and create target node. Whenever you want to write some expression, so directly without mapping, so we are going to use create target node like this. Right click on that and create target node. And here I can use functions, like I'm going to use a concatenate function, which is coming from string functions. If you don't remember the function name, you can go to functions and also take from like string and drop that function name here. Both are on the same. Now concat, what I will do, I want to take first the say hello return, which is coming from my hello world response, and concatenate using single quotes, greetings from OIC. This is exactly what I need my response. You are going to develop integration or anything based on what you need. You can't simply go and develop something on the in the air, right? So you get the requirements first. You decide what output you're trying to build and what logic you need to write for that one. Do I need to call any existing services? All that you are going to first decide, and then you are going to write that logic. So part of that, what I am doing, I'm getting the response and appending greetings from OIC. So I am enriching the response from the existing service. Validate and close. So that's also done. Then what we do, I will go and we're still showing one error. The last step in the integration creation. One is the logic. This logic will be simple to very complex. You may be calling one service or multiple services. That's all you are going to do it. You're taking some input and giving the response at the end, usually. Then the last thing, you're going to create one thing called tracking variable, tracking field. You click on the tracking field. Any input what you have can become a tracking field. Why we need tracking field, I'll explain again. That will be used in the monitoring. You click, just say gname is going to be my tracking field, click save. Save it and close. Our integration is complete. What is the next step? I'll come back and take the questions. Let me just complete this. You can note down the questions and ask me after this is done. After the integration is completed, created, you're going to activate that. You can see these are the active state. This is configured state, ours. So you mouse over that, you get those icons, you activate that. When you're activating, you can also say, I want to enable the tracing, which is going to be useful for the logging. And in the logging, I also want to see wherever there is a invoke or trigger connection, I want to see what data is passing through in that calls. So for that, you're going to use include payload. Click on activate. I'm really going fast on these steps purposefully. Don't worry, you'll get complete clarity on these things when you start using, or you can also ask the questions. And we are going to many integrations. You'll get bored on these steps very soon, believe me. Now what I do, I'm going to test this integration to see whether it is working as expected or not. I click on run, then click on test. So when you click on test, it is going to open the test interface. It's taking some time. It's a little bit slow, I think, this instance itself. And here it is asking to enter the name. So this is interface for testing. The integration code is providing some interface where you can test your integrations which are exposed as a REST. Now it is asking to give the input gname. This is what we in fact configured in our integration as an input parameter. I give, for example, Bhaskar here and click on test. So it is going to give me the response called, this is my value, hello Bhaskar, greetings from OIC. It is going to get me the JSON only because that's what I configured as. If I give some other name here, so for example, I give Sahana, you click on test, it is going to give me hello Sahana, greetings from OIC. Right? So like that, our integration is working now as expected. I'm giving some input and I'm getting that what value I wanted. Okay. Now, before you ask the questions, I want to just summarize on what we did, right? You kind of learned here how to create, or basically what all different steps involved in developing an integration. I'm not saying you're expert on that, at least you saw. And then in that we have seen how to create a trigger connection based on a REST, how to create an invoke connection based on SOAP, how to create app-driven orchestration based integration. In that, use trigger connection to start with. You also invoked an existing service. You also mapped input for that one. Also mapped final output. In that, you also used a concat function, right? And then we activated, tested. We used, tested like that. So you've gone through so many different things, just an introduction point of view, not like you are becoming expert with this example, right? Do one thing. Let's take 5 minutes break. We'll come back. Today I'm going to stretch a little bit. Please bear with me. I mean, 10:15 only we'll try to close as per the plan. But just let's take 5 minutes break. We'll come back. So it's 9:40 or 9:39. I'll come back at 9:45 and we'll resume. I can take your questions, etc. It looks like we don't have much time to work on this one. I'll introduce one of these concepts and then we can take it for the next session. It took a little more time than what I expected for the integration, this integration. Okay. All right. So I will stop sharing for 5 minutes. I'll be on mute. You can stretch and come back. Okay, I'm resuming the recording. Also, I'll start sharing my screen. One second. Okay. I hope everybody is back. So see this integration, right? What we've done, you might be having many questions like which are coming in your mind, but hopefully you understand something. If you don't understand something, no problem. You can ask the questions now, or it will take at least 2 to 3 sessions by the to really get the comprehensive picture of these technologies. Why SOAP, why REST, or what exposing, invoke, trigger, what is JSON, what is XML, WSDL, all these concepts to put together and understand that picture. It will take 2 to 3 sessions to get the complete picture, but we can try to get as much information as possible. Like I'll give some time for the questions now before I take the next topic. So first question, I think, let me take from the here. Okay, first Ali, in this example, instead of using REST, can we use SOAP as a trigger without REST? Yes, we can use SOAP also as a trigger. Only thing is, if you are using a SOAP, you need to create a WSDL first on your own, and you are going to use the WSDL for the SOAP trigger connection. And Shakil is saying, kindly explain the trigger and invoke a bit more. Yeah, so trigger and invoke is like this one. If I need to explain, let's say we are having a PLSQL function. In the PLSQL function, what we do, you take any function like this one, let's say add, return C, and then in this, I'm calling another function, for example, function 1, I'm sending some value here. This is nothing but you're invoking something. So whenever you're invoking something, based on that invoke, what you want to invoke, for that service, you're going to create invoke based connection. I think the invoke connection is not having any doubt, right? Invoke connection is whichever you want to invoke, you are going to create a connection for that one. If I want to invoke a hello world service, create connection for hello world service. I want to create a connection for, I want to invoke a create supplier in the Fusion. You create an invoke connection for that, create supplier web service. That is clear. Only I think the doubt would be for the trigger. What is trigger? The trigger is nothing but something like this specification of your function. Somewhere you're defined, right? You're exposing some functionality. When you're developing a functionality, one interface you're exposing to the person who is going to call your interface, your functionality. That interface is nothing but the trigger connection. Okay, the trigger connection depicts the interface what you're exposing to the client. Is that clear? Okay, Shakil, are we good on that? Okay. Then Deepak is saying integration creation. This seems to be multiple steps with new menu navigations. Do you have a document for at least first demo? Once we do a couple of hands-on, we will get hold of these steps, concepts. I don't really have, I don't have a very good document. Best is you have to go through the recording only. I can provide the steps if you want. I can create and provide, but believe me, this becomes really easy. You create just one integration, understand. You will not really need, you may not really need the document for knowing the steps involved in that. Because every integration, it will take the same steps, create connection, invoke the connection, do the mapping like that one. But it'll be more, when you are going to, we are going to more practical cases, so you'll understand a little bit better. Like hello world and greetings is not a very good example for the integrations, even though I've taken that because that is a simple thing to start with. Venkat is saying trigger is still not clear. Okay. Okay, I'll try to explain that again. Shakil, it means every integration starts with trigger. Yes, every integration starts with trigger. That's correct. And you are going to have only one trigger point. You cannot have multiple triggers. For one integration, one trigger. Now that trigger, that is going to define the service what you're exposing. Okay. Let me take the next question and then I'll come back to trigger explanation. So yes, yeah.
Okay, I have a question. This means that trigger, when you created another service that is hello world that you have reused, that also contain the trigger point also, right?
That is the trigger point. Yes, it will be containing. It depends again where they develop the service.
Okay.
Right? The trigger, the terminology is the integration cloud terminology.
Okay.
If you're developing the web service using a Java technology, simple Java technology also, you can develop the web service, right?
Yes.
They may not call trigger there. They may simply say something else also. Okay. Trigger is nothing but the entry point. So this trigger terminology, I am also hearing for the first time only the integration cloud. I mean, for a specific connection, I'm saying the trigger connection. Usually we call expose service.
Okay. That is similar to the expose.
Yes, in case of Oracle SOA, it is called expose service. The definition of the expose service. Like you are exposing the service to the client. The definition of that one. In case of integration cloud, they're using technology called trigger.
Okay, and invoke is nothing but any service that I am going to call.
Yes.
That.
Yeah. So for a given integration, you will have only one trigger, but you can have multiple invoke connections. You may be using multiple invoke connections based on your business requirement. Okay, then when you enable logs for any service, where is the data stored? Is there any additional cost for saving these logs? How long these logs remain available? How to clear those logs? No, the logs will be available. There is no additional cost for that. Just like the simple logs will be available. How long? I think there is a property you can configure, but usually you'll be having for days, the logs will be available. If you want to take that and again send it to some other external, like you are storing and all, probably you can work with some services. There are also something called REST service available for administration point of view. You can even use those REST services and do certain automation on the maintenance point of view. And then if I want to integrate my R12 on-premise application to a web service, how can it be done? Yeah, I'm assuming that you want to invoke the R12 from the integration cloud. Yes, that can be done. There are two ways of doing that. We'll be doing that concepts also. One is you can directly access the R12 database from the integrations using database adapter. The second thing is R12 also can expose something called, what is that called? SOA gateway. Using
Integrated SOA gateway.
Yeah, using that also you can access. So for if you're not using integrated SOA gateway, you will have to use the agent for sure. You have to, the agent concept and all we'll be learning. So any on-premise integrations, we are going to work with agents. So you have to download that agent and install in your system. Or if it's enterprise, you are going to provide one dedicated server, one central server host where you are going to run the agent, and that agent will be able to reach out to other resources in your enterprise. So your integration cloud, to access on-premise resources, you need to have some channel. The channel can be created or built using this agent. That will be doing. Okay. Venkat, is Trigger, do we need to discuss more on that? Are we clear?
I think for now we're good.
For now, yeah, that's what you'll get more clarity or more like what exactly it is while you start doing it. So with this, I have like some time. I'll sorry guys who are in US East Coast, it's too late. I'll try to close in next 15 minutes only, even though we have some topics which we'll be covering in the next session. That is on Wednesday morning, and that will be Tuesday night for US folks. Let's quickly talk about XML. I'll introduce XSD, but I won't be able to complete that. If you have any still further questions on what you've done today, you can ask in the next session. Why? Today I'm going to share the instance access. So whatever I have access, like the resources, I'll just talk about that resources towards end of the session. Just stay on for that, where you'll get the resources. So you can create this integration, whatever I've done. Even though if you're not understanding why we are doing, blindly you just follow the steps and do it. You refer my recording and do the steps. If you remember, you don't need to refer the recording, you just do the steps. Do the steps and complete it and test it and make sure that you're getting the response. Why you are doing, if you're not understanding, no problem, you'll get that answers soon from on your own. So then coming to XML, XSD and WSDL, we want to understand a little bit more on that one. What is that? Also, in fact, you should know what is JSON. So XML and JSON, okay, one chat, we can integrate on-premise EBS with SOA. So is there any need for OIC in this? Will there be any advantage of using OIC? Advantage in terms of the actual integrations, there may not be much advantage between SOA and integration cloud. The integration cloud is more beneficial in terms of reducing the overhead of maintaining this whole setup. Like for SOA, if somebody has to use it, they have to manage one SOA server. Somebody administrator has to install, set up and make sure it is working, and that server is up and running 24/7. If anything goes wrong, again, you need to make sure like you are managing that properly. Also, if you want to improve any performance, like where the more load is there and all, you always need to have those issues in the on-premises. Issues means there is overhead, I would say. In case of integration cloud, that is taken care by Oracle. You see, for working with Oracle Integration Cloud, I did not install anything. The same thing I'm going to do. You'll be able to just use it. That is the main advantage of Integration Cloud. Not only that one, Oracle is also introducing more and more feature Integration Cloud now, because that is becoming more focused product from them. So you'll be having more probably tools and interfaces available in the integration cloud, which may not be available in the Oracle server in terms of maintenance or how you can get like a certain metrics for management, like all that information. But simple developing integration, you may not see much difference between SOA and OIC. Okay, XML and JSON. What is this XML? XML is a way to represent your data. A way to represent the data. When you say data, when we are developing applications and you are developing the operations or methods or functions, you're dealing with the data only, right? Whenever you are calling any function or calling any external service operation, you're sending some input and getting the output. Now, sending the input and output, if you're talking in specific technologies, they will be having some data types. Like in case of Java or PLSQL, you'll be having integer, number, varchar2, string, or whatever. But when you're working with the web services, in the web services world, you're not talking about those technologies. You want to represent something in neutral way. What is the neutral way of representing the data? Neutral way is like, let's say I want to represent employee details. Employee details will contain, for example, okay, the name of the employee, ID of the employee, and what is the which city this employee belongs to, for example, like then what is the salary of something, and then like that you want to represent an employee, you can represent like this, right? Does this need any data type or nothing? We're representing a simple string. So any data can be represented using like this one. But when you represent like this, now I know that this is the ID of the employee. I know that this is a city and this is salary. But how will, if I send this data to you, how will you interpret that? Are you going to interpret this one as a name and this one as ID only? Maybe you may think this is a salary because I never mentioned this is ID, this is right. Unless I give additional instructions to you through some document or something saying that this data is represented using a comma separated values. The first token is the name, second token is the ID, like that one. To avoid that additional documentation, additional instructions, and in the web services world, when you want to, basically when you're not dealing directly with any technologies, you want to represent the data in neutral way and understandable way, self-understandable way, you need to have some representation like XML or JSON. So XML is there in the market like for many years, like more than 20 years, right? XML is there. And JSON introduced, like was introduced recently, like more, maybe like 4, 5 or 6 years back. What is XML? You take any example of XML document. If I go to the resources, what I'm sharing with you guys, if you go to XML folder, you have so many XML. You open any XML. For example, I open employee XML. XML is represented like this one. I'm sure all of you would have seen some XML. So XML contains XML elements or XML tags. These are called elements. Element name, starting and ending. So starting will be like in the angle brackets like this one, then also ending with forward slash. And then name, ID, ID. So these are the fields representing the employee. Now, if I send this one instead of like what I said, like this one, this is better, right? This is better in terms of understanding what this data is representing. I know that David is the name, 2345 is the ID, 12 is the experience, like that, age, salary, all that is clearly explained in this document. That's why XML becomes so popular in specifically the web services. So whenever you want to exchange any data as input or output, you will be represented using XML. So in case of SOAP web services, we'll explain about what is SOAP and WSDL in the next session. In case of SOAP web service, in fact, you're always going to represent using XML only. There is no other option. Any input my SOAP web service is expecting has to be in XML. Any web service the SOAP service is going to respond or return will be in XML. And XML is extensible, flexible. You can also have a hierarchical data. What is hierarchical? You can take any other example. Orders, let's say I open this one. This is a little more complex XML document. Order, I'm representing order details. What is order details? Order contains, let's say, order ID, customer details, customer name and ID. Like this is like parent element. Inside that I'm having child elements. Then items, like item, ID, name, price, item, ID, name, price, like that one. So if you look at this XML, very high level, it's only having 3 elements. ID, customer details, item details. Customer is called complex element here. Why? Customer is having additional subfields. Items is also called complex element because it's having 4 item elements. Okay. Now item itself is another complex element because it's having item. Like this, you can decide the element names and hierarchy based on what kind of data you're representing. So there is no limit here in the sense you can represent any data using XML. And the XML is self-explanatory in terms of what is the data and what is the meaning of the data. Both are tied together. Okay. In a similar manner, you also have a JSON. Why JSON? XML, some people thought it is adding little bit overhead in terms of representing the data. The size of the data is becoming just like no more. That is true, right? That is true in terms of if I go to this data versus this data, obviously it is more. What I'm expecting the data, actual data, what I need is this one only. Let's say I am sending this data to your web service. Your web service is going to extract this data and put into one table, database table. What is it going to extract? It is going to extract only these values. It's not going to extract name, ID and all. That is already there in the table, field names or whatever. So in order to represent David, this data, it is becoming so much more data in case of XML. But that is not usually overhead. Most of the times, I mean, I never heard like before 5 years back, for example, that, oh, XML is becoming overhead in terms of size. I mean, maybe in case of instead of 10 MB, it will be becoming, for example, 30 MB or sometimes 20 MB. People never worried about. Not even MB, right? You'll be having the data usually like in KBs, like 1 KB is becoming 3 KB, 10 KB is becoming maybe 20 KB. So doesn't matter much. But what happened when we started using this mobile applications, the mobile application becomes usually a client. It's going to access some web services which are already available on the server to implement the business logic. Let's say I'm developing a shopping cart, right? So Amazon application is there, mobile application. What Amazon mobile application will do? It has to communicate to the web server, right? And the web server will be having a web service or whatever, and it has to get the data. I'm not talking about the Amazon like normal desktop, like web application, the Amazon app. So there, every time it is going to contact the server and send some input and get the data. So probably that might be too much of overhead because the mobile applications are already having scarcity, like of the resources. So every bit, every byte probably is like important there. You don't have like GBs of RAM and GBs of hard disk. Usually you're having 2 GB, 4 GB, maybe 8 GB or maybe 12 GB RAM, not more than that one. So every data becomes important over there. You don't want to like add too much of overhead on the data representation. So that's where the alternate representation is JSON. It's not completely reducing or removing the overhead, but it will be adding a little bit less overhead compared to XML. So if you take employee.json, I'm not having, I think, same employee.json. Let me see. A little bit different field, but that's fine. For to represent the employee as a JSON, you're going to have like this one. In this case, we're going to have the field name value. name value, which is in single quotes or double quotes, and then the value. Similar to XML, only thing is you don't have starting and ending. Only starting is sufficient. You're separating them using colon, and then each field will be separated using comma. So now people started adopting JSON over XML. Obviously, it is reducing some overhead, and people felt this is also very, very convenient, easy to understand and use it. And there are some standards again. So why do you need standards? If you have the standards, then you can have the tools which can help us in working with that, like the whatever that concept. Let's say I want to read and from this JSON extract the data. So I'm not going to write every time PLSQL code or Java code. I'll be using an existing APIs for that. So those APIs will know how the JSON is represented, how XML is represented, and they're going to help us to work with that. So with this, I will be showing one more example of JSON. Let's say order.json, right? Okay, this is also not complex. Customer.json you can open. So here you are having customer. JSON always starts with flower brackets, starting and ending. They are going to have the field name and value. It could be string or it could be number. And if there is a complex data, like address is not just one field, it is a combination of fields, then you are going to again start and end. So this whole thing is treated as one field, which is comma separated again. And the phone number is another complex, but this is not starting with flower bracket. That means if you're starting with square bracket, that is an array. There is a collection. So you have a collection of phone numbers, two phone numbers. One is the phone number type home, one is the type fax or whatever. It could be mobile like that. So the number. So then these two are the elements within this array or collection. So you can represent, in case of XML, how you represent the collection, that is like this one. This is a collection item, one more item, like that, repeating element. Here also it is a repeating element called phone number, which contains type and number. The structure of the element has to be same when you say repeating element. You cannot say here it is a type and here it is something else. Then it won't become fit into array. That will become a separate element altogether. So using JSON and XML, you can represent the data. And both the cases we are having the data and the meaning of the data together. So easy to interpret when you are sharing across applications or sharing across different people also. Manually also it is easy to understand. Okay. So in case of SOAP services, it's always XML, your input and output. In case of REST, you don't have any restriction. You can use JSON, you can use XML, you can use any other representation also. Slowly you're understanding the difference between SOAP and REST also. This way. Any other representation also works. But in case of SOAP, it's a standard. You have to use XML only. That's one of the reasons why people started using REST. Wanted to have an alternate. Okay. With this, I'll explain where you'll get the access. First thing, you're going to get one email from my side. With the instance details, we are going to have the instance name, username and password. So when you log into that, you will log into like this home page. Like you'll be here. Click on integrations to work with the integrations. So connections, integrations, whatever I created today, and you can test it. Then the second thing, we are going to also have a access on the Google Drive. The Google Drive access, if you want to know how you are going to access, you will get an email also, but go to drive.google.com using your email ID, whichever you are sharing to me. You have to share me the email ID. Already Sahana would be having that. I'll take. So once you go there, you click on shared with me. In your case, you click on shared with me. So when you click on shared with me, see, for example, in this case, it is showing what all the different things shared to me by somebody else. Like I have some videos, some SAP MM, like demo session or so. Like these are things available to me from somebody else. You will see 2 folders from my side. My side means from IQ Technologies, like this one. You'll be having 2 folders will be getting access. One folder name will be OIC Feb 21 recordings, like this one. One more folder will be OIC attendance, this folder only, whatever I was using. One more folder name will be OIC attendance resources. These 2 folders will be seeing in your Google Drive under shared with me. This will contain all the resources like files, what you need for the practices, you can download. This will contain all the recordings plus this running notes, whatever I'm typing here, I'm going to put this file over there. Okay. The recordings will be able to only, of course, play. You won't be able to download that. That is as per what is committed. Right. So these 2 things will be getting like in some time today. I'll be sharing that the Google Drive and also the instance. Before the next session, work on this greetings integration. If you're stuck on something, if you're not able to complete, also don't worry. If you're able to complete, you're good. If you're not able to complete, try to complete. You can come back with me questions. If you're not able to complete, where you are stuck, why you are stuck, you can fix that. In the next session, we are going to focus more on understanding about XSD and WSDL. After that, you will also understand about IAS, PAS, SAS. It won't take much time, just 5 to 10 minutes only. And then we'll be going with the project work, what we're going to start with. Order processing, developing, like, working with the FTP and all that stuff. Okay. I will be, if anybody wants to drop, you can drop now. From my side, I am done. If you have any questions, you can stay back and ask. I'll be there another 5 minutes. Benefit on JSON, I don't think there will be any additional benefits. It's a, people felt that is more convenient representation in some places over XML. It's a lightweight basically compared to XML. How can we get URL of this integration? Okay. So if whatever the integration we created, if you want to get the URL of that one, this is our greetings integration. You click on run, then you have the metadata file here. Click on that one. This is going to open, and this is our URL of the web service, what we developed. So this can be even accessed from any other client. I will be showing this in the next session. If I need to test this using SOAP UI, how we can do that one, I'll be showing that. So it actually contains the complete metadata of the web service, what we developed. What is like parameter name, what is the response time, all that. Yes, I'm going to send an email with the instance. Yeah. You also may be getting email. I will let you know. Anyway, I'll send an email on that. Okay, any other questions before we wind up for today? All right. Thank you so much for your patience and listening to me with attention. So we'll meet again on Wednesday morning, IST time.
Thank you, Bhaskar.
Yeah, bye.